Hey everybody, it's Safi and Marco Dish Out on Movies, the only movie review show on YouTube to review movies in terms of food. It's just Marco here once again, and I am here today to review South Park Season 27, Episode 1, Sermon on the Mount. And so I do actually apologize for giving up on reviewing South Park because, I don't know, it was just something about it to where, like, these comedy show episodes that are only like 25 minutes, it doesn't really ever feel like there's a lot to say about them. It kind of just feels like a little pointless to say, like, yeah, this was really good because, I think it's a lot better to just do like reactions. I think that, that would be a lot better, but I have decided to come back to reviewing this show. And honestly, I am glad that I returned when I did because this is probably one of the best episodes that I've ever seen of the whole show. It was hilarious. It was just very, very well written, very well done. And you know what I loved about it? I loved how mean-spirited it was. Because I think that, a lot of people have said, you can't make this movie nowadays. You can't make that movie nowadays. And they say, comedy is dead and, all that stuff. But you point to this episode and you go, well, I think that South Park disagrees because this episode it pretty much checks all the boxes that you could, that you would have on like like an old school comedy checklist. This episode actually brings back the two words that everyone knows that they should be allowed to use, which is retard and faggot. And so that's one of the great things about this episode. And I think another great thing is the fact that, like, I love the fact that, like, over the recent years, to be honest, it has felt like the show has been less mean-spirited and more kind of like, they attack both sides, but for the majority, it has this feeling that it's more on the right side of things. Whereas in this episode, it's just like a brutal takedown of this new Trump era, the terrible Trump era, and, everything that he's doing to destroy the country. And it's a fantastic episode. I loved it. I thought it was just all of the different jokes in this episode. I didn't think there was a single bad joke. I love the part where Randy, of course, I hate Tegrity Farms. That was another thing that kind of made me not want to watch the show, is because I just hate it whenever we see, like, the Tegrity Farms bit. But I love the part where he's in bed and he's having like an AI voice chat session, and then you see his wife is right next to him. I thought that was perfect. That was great. And I also loved how this episode took characters who are usually, so anti-woke and anti, like, SJW crap, like Randy and Cartman. And both of them are now on the left side of things. They're on the complete opposite ends of the spectrum now, because Randy doesn't like this, unconstitutional thing that's going on in the South Park school, where Jesus is actually physically in school, which I will say, the one thing that I would have liked is they have this scene where Jesus says that he was not allowed to sit at Stan's table, and Stan was like, there wasn't any room at the table, and it's just brilliant, clever writing there, because it's obviously it's metaphorical, but I would have loved to have seen, like, Jesus Christ trying to interact with students and trying to, like, hang out with them at recess and trying to fit in school. I mean, that would have been really hilarious. I mean, I think that they should definitely, if they have him in the rest of the season, which I don't know if they will, because it kind of seems like he should be there, like regardless of what the other like stories are that they're gonna do. But we all know that the show, every episode they erase kind of what happened, like The Simpsons and all that crap. So, and by the way, I apologize for my voice being so rough today. Yesterday I had a really long and exhaustive shoot day, and it was a lot of energy and work. And so I'm really tired. I'm still tired. I'm still like just completely like exhausted from yesterday. So again, I apologize for my voice being so rough. But yeah, the best part of the episode is the reveal of the fact that the townspeople this time, they're not going to storm the Capitol, but they tried to storm Mr. Garrison's house. And they find out Mr. Garrison is not going to be Trump anymore, and he is just going to be Mr. Garrison, which I am really glad that they did that, because I think that that's one of the reasons I never liked the older Trump like criticism stuff, is because it felt like that should have been like a one-off gag, having Mr. Garrison as Trump. I feel like, as they did in the past, they had Saddam Hussein. They had these real people's faces. And I thought, Trump deserves that treatment as well, because as the show says, he's just as bad as Saddam Hussein, if not worse. And so I'm glad that they brought his face into the show. And God, this episode just completely obliterated him. I loved all the scenes with him. It's actually like the only time that you would actually like enjoy seeing him is being on South Park, where he's just being completely humiliated. And of course they do that big advertisement at the end where he's walking through the desert and he gets completely naked. Like, I love that. It's so mean and so good. Such a great thing to do. And also, of course, after recently NPR got defunded, which should not be defunded at all, and that should not even be a controversial opinion to have. And then Stephen Colbert's crappy show got canceled. The show kind of made fun of how, like, it seems like there's this weird kind of culture. It's weird because, the right side, they're so, up in arms about, like, the woke stuff. And I am guilty of that, too, because I hate, the woke crap. But, as the townspeople say in the show, you can go too far. And you can go too far away from that to the other end of the spectrum, which is what is going on right now in the real world. And so it's weird because there's this kind of culture now of fear and intimidation where, like, these shows, like, they even say, like, they even kind of imply, like South Park, they make fun of the fact that, like, oh, be careful, guys, like, like Jesus has this whole monologue that he does where he's trying to warn the town, like, we don't want to end up like Stephen Colbert's show. And I loved this episode. So I would give this episode an A+. And I'm thoroughly excited for the rest of the season. I wonder, there's just so many episodes of South Park. I wonder how this episode would rank on my personal rankings, but I really don't know. How many are there? Like hundreds, like 300 plus episodes. So it would be really, really difficult to go back and say, like, to even come up with like a top 10 best and worst, etc., etc. But anyways, love this episode, and also love the whole thing with Cartman and Butters. I love the fact that they're friends now. And I love the fact that because, woke is dead, quote unquote, I love the fact that him and Butters are like best friends now. And, they had the little moment at the end where Cartman is trying to kill himself in an electric car. And that reveal was hilarious. But then at the very end of the episode, during the credits, Cartman actually tells Butters that he loves him. And I thought that was real. That was actually kind of sweet. Because I've always thought, I think that, through the seasons of South Park, one of my biggest issues has been not as much focus on the main children, not as much focus on Kyle, Stan, Cartman, Kenny together as friends. Like, I want more focus on them and less focus on, like, the side characters like Randy and people like him. And so I love how you can feel, like, I've always loved Cartman and Butters and their relationship, even though they've had some very extreme ups and downs. But I've always thought that they were, like, a really good, like, dynamic duo, like, almost, like, even better than some of the main kids like Kyle and Stan and, Kenny and anyone else. Like, I've always kind of thought that Butters and Cartman, they had a really cool pairing. And so I really appreciate that this season starting off with strengthening that. And again, I wonder if we're going to see any of these relationships, these things continue on to the rest of the season, because, the South Park creators, they recently said, we're not going to make fun of Trump and we're not even going to talk about him. And I had no idea that this episode was basically just going to be like a giant fuck you, not only to Trump, but to, everyone in the White House and, to, to Paramount. Yeah, to Paramount as well. I mean, Paramount is the actual network that the show is playing on. They just made a huge deal with Paramount. It's like a $5 billion deal. And as soon as they made that deal, they're like, well, just because we made a deal doesn't mean I'm not going to make fun of you and just completely roast you. And that's the thing about, like, the whole, like, woke culture is that, just like, now, the extreme, like, right side, it always felt like there was, like, this, like, fear of, like, oh, I don't want to offend people, and I don't want to, cause any offense to anything, and I don't want to, make someone feel bullied or, ooh. And, nowadays, it's still like that, but it's on the other side of things. So I love the fact that the creators of South Park, they established with this episode, get ready for the rest of the season, because we are going to just make fun of everyone all the time. We're not going to do the thing where we did the vaccination special, which that was crap. That's probably one of my least favorite episodes that they've ever done. But we're actually going to treat everyone the same. And we're going to bring back the words that everyone wants to say all the time. And we're going to make comedy come back. I mean, with this and the new Naked Gun movie and King of the Hill, I really hope that we start to get some more comedy movies. I really hope that, it's not just South Park and King of the Hill and, Beavis and Butthead. I hope we get some old school comedy movies, because we really need those and we want those. We don't want to get our comedy through seeing the new MCU movie. We don't want to hear these stupid dad jokes while there's, like, a supervillain who's destroying the world and, you're hearing these cringy jokes. We don't want that anymore. We're sick and tired of that. So, please like this video, comment, tell me what you thought of this episode, and then please subscribe to our channel if you'd like to continue seeing more South Park reviews. Goodbye, everybody. See you soon.